Patung, dumelang, good afternoon, good morning, good day, wherever you are. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Moramadi. Is it a channel? But it is. I get rato fanaka information here, so this is where we at. So there was an interesting video that someone sent it to me. Very interesting video, and the video was about, I'll give a scenario. It was about husband and wife. They were married. They were married in community of property. They bought a fixed property. They had one son, and wife died. A couple of years later, wife goes and marries. Husband goes and marries. He gets married to someone who's got a child already. So gets married in community of property again, and then we've got and then they have a child. So bana ba three. Ke ola wa ntate wa tlileng lena ko lenyalong is the second one that the woman came with in the marriage, and the third one is the one that they have together in marriage. And unfortunately, this couple meets up with an accident and they pass away simultaneously, for argument's sake. So the big question is, so let's try and unpack that. And I think this was quite interesting for me, based on the fact that, a lot of people, learnings here is a lot of people do get married in community of property and they don't understand what it means. Secondly, when they get married and they've got children, blended family, we need to do estate planning. Very important, because that's where things get tricky. The third learning is an estate has to be wound up. So people don't wind up deceased estates. So now in this scenario, we've got a problem of the first death, which was of mama in the first marriage. So in that instant, the estate was not wound up. So now we need to go back, wind that one up, transfer the asset to dad, transfer the asset to the children. Does it make sense? So we'll go back. Let's take a few steps. We'll call them Dan and Joyce, the first couple. I think that's what they were called in that scenario. So let's call them Dan and Joyce. So Joyce dies, but they've got a child called Tabo. What happens? So the estate value at the time, the fixed property was 700,000. So dad then owns 50% of that estate by virtue of him being married to Joyce in community of property. So if it's 700,000, we divide that by 2, then we've got 350, which he owns. It belongs to him, right? And then we've got the 350, which is what now he needs to, we're going to split it in terms of intestate succession. How do we do that? Firstly, we look at the rules. Intestate succession is quite explicit in terms of the rules, in terms of how we actually divide the estate. There is the 250 rule, which is an amount that goes to a spouse or a child share, whichever is greater. If the child share was going to be R1,000,000, then the spouse are going to get a child share. But in this case, the spouse is going to get the 250. So, 350, which belongs to him, plus the 250, then we are left with 100,000, which goes to Tabo. Now, this property moved and grew in value when now Dan got married to Dikeledi, which is the second wife, right? So the amount grew. They got married in community of property. So now the house belongs to Tabo and Dan. Tabo owns a small percentage, which is now, it was 100,000 when his mom died, and dad owned the rest of the amount out of the 700,000. Now when dad gets married to Dikeledi and then they have a daughter. So now remember I said ke Thabo o tlile papa, ke Dineo o tlile mama, and then it's the third one, wa mo lenyalong la mama le papa, the new marriage. Now when they die, now mama le papa, now the new setup, when they die, what happens to their share? Now then we're going to look at now laws of intestate succession again, because they also die intestate. Firstly, now we've got Tabo, who came with dad, gets gets a share from dad's share. We've got Dineo, who came with mama, gets a share from mom's share. And then we've got the one that came with Wamulinyalo, that is in a combined share. Yeah, mama, le papa. So we have to do a calculation. Can you see how tricky it gets? Now, at the end of the day, Tabo is going to slightly get a little bit more percentage because the other one belongs to him. It's not an inheritance, it belongs to him anyway because we inherited it from his mom. So can you see how complicated it can be? So it's important that we actually draw up a will. So I said a lot, and I'm sure it's very complicated and confusing. Next time I'll actually display on a board so that you can actually see, be able to understand it. But I will also plug in just one slide that actually shows, I'll display it here, that shows the laws of interstate succession, and actually what are the rules and what are the exceptions to the rule. One last point that I didn't touch on, Dineo that came with Dikeledi. So the biggest question is, was Dineo an adopted child of Dan? If Dan adopted Dineo, so then all the children are viewed with the same eye. There won't be a discrepancy there. But if Dineo was not adopted, then it's a different story. The same applies to Tabo. If Tabo was adopted by Dikeledi, which is now his stepmom, so the laws of adoption would apply. Okay, very complicated, quite complex, but fun. And I think this will be a series of a few other things that I will be talking about when it comes to estate planning and wealth preservation. Very passionate about this. One thing to look forward to is my book on estate planning. I think yes, I share personal journeys, I share personal stories that I've encountered, I share a personal encounter, and based on that, there is a lot of learnings. I share the unspoken truths about love. So there is a lot that comes out of that. I'm looking forward to the launch, and I think it will be very educational. Based on that, there'll be topics that we will unpack in a podcast. Thank you so much. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed this, and I hope you will share your comments or share scenarios that you want me to unpack and solve when it comes to estate planning. Much love.